So good morning, everyone. And first of all, thank you so much for joining us today to hear more about unlocking refugee talent. It's a massive pleasure for me to be able to host today's session and bring together an absolutely amazing group of speakers that you'll be hearing from throughout the hour, especially as it's Refugee Week this week. So my name is Lauren Roberts, and I'm advocacy lead for the City and Guilds Foundation, where we are all about removing barriers that individuals may face when entering the world of work and looking for better training opportunities. From our work with several charities, including the amazing Launchpad Collective, we know that people from refugee backgrounds often disproportionately face barriers in this area. So with that in mind, we've teamed up with the Launchpad Collective to host today's session to not only give you a fuller idea of the whole refugee landscape, but also to hear from several individuals with lived experience. So just a little bit of housekeeping from me. As I said, we'll be hearing from several speakers all throughout the hour. And then at the end, we're going to have a little Q&A session. So if you have any questions, feel free to just drop them in the Q&A section or in the chat, and we'll get those picked up towards the end. We're also going to be running a few polls just to kind of gauge the feeling in the room as we go throughout the session. And to kick us off, I'm just going to start with our first poll, which is asking the group, how confident do you feel in hiring a refugee at the moment? So the first answer is very confident, somewhat confident, and then not confident at all. So we'll give it 30, 40 seconds. Let's pop it there. So we've got 14% very confident, 50% somewhat confident, which is great, and obviously a lot of hope in the room, and 36% not confident at all, which is also really great, because hopefully coming to this session, you'll end with slightly more confidence that you gained with, and those of you that are very confident, that will only go up hopefully. So to get us started, I'd love to introduce Summerlee DeVito, co-founder and director of the Launchpad Collective, who's going to set the scene a little bit on who the Launchpad Collective are and get us started.
Thank you so much, Lauren, and thank you everyone for being here today to learn how becoming a refugee employer can help your business thrive. So I'm Summerlee, I'm one of the co-founders of the Launchpad Collective, and we set up in April 2020, and we look to bring refugee job seekers and employers together. We recognise that these job seekers struggle both with recruitment processes and accessing employment opportunities. And businesses struggle to access this talented pool, this waiting workforce, and we're helping to bring the two together. Businesses like you are reaching out almost daily at the moment to try and connect with refugees. And in the 8 years that Jane, my co-founder, and I have been working in this space, supporting refugees, we've never seen such an outpouring of support for the refugee population as we have since the crisis in Ukraine. The good news for you as employers is that this refugee population, this waiting workforce, is much bigger, more diverse and more skilled than perhaps you might think. We understand that the idea of employing a refugee might feel a bit daunting, or perhaps it might feel like a risk to your business. But there are very many opportunities for you, and it is easier than you think. And that's why we are here to support you at the Launchpad Collective. Today, we have 2 members of our core team at the Launchpad Collective here, Medya and Kateba, and we've also invited some guest speakers to share their experiences. They are from Iran. All of them speak different levels of English, and English is in fact just one of the many languages that they speak. My colleague Medya will be talking to you more about the recruitment landscape. Kateba will be talking about some of the common barriers and challenges at work for people with refugee backgrounds. And then you're going to hear first-hand experiences from Salwa, Uhud, and Irfan, and they're going to be sharing their ideas of how to make recruitment more inclusive. You'll also hear from the voice of business. Jess is here from Bee People and Stephen from Riverford Organics, and they're going to be sharing their first-hand experiences. And at the end, you'll hear from my colleague and co-founder Jane, who will highlight some of the business benefits of hiring from this pool of talented individuals. And you'll be invited to join our pilot program, which is to help us create a business toolkit that works for you and your business. But more on that from Jane later on. So first of all, I'm delighted to hand over to Medya, who's going to give you a picture of the recruitment landscape at the moment. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Medya.
Thank you, Summerlee. And thank you all for showing your support for people with refugee background today, people like me. I'm from Syria and I have been studying Masters in Gender Violence and Conflict in the UK for the last 9 months in the University of Sussex. Previously, I was a program coordinator at CARE International in Syria, and I worked for the International Rescue Committee as Women Protection and Empowerment Manager. My job was to provide safe spaces for women, mainly gender-based violence survivors, children, and vulnerable people such as refugees and internally displaced people. We provided them with psychosocial support, mental health, and vocational training. Stuart, could you please show the first slide? Thank you. So in coming to our event today, you are like 2/3 of UK businesses who in a survey conducted this year said that they are open to hire refugees, and that's great news for people like me. In fact, in a recent survey, over half of the businesses surveyed have already hired someone from a refugee background and are likely to hire someone in the next 12 months. Next slide, please. Recruiting a refugee is an important opportunity for UK businesses. At the moment, there are over 1.3 million positions in the UK. These are record high vacancies waiting to be filled. The imminent predict decline in the UK population set to begin in 2025 leaves the UK dependent on migration to increase its workforce. This is much earlier than expected. Next slide, please. And the refugee population is going to increase. 20,000 Afghan refugees are expected to arrive in the UK over the next 5 years. They are joining almost 380,000 refugees already here. More than 60,000 people fleeing Ukraine have arrived in the UK, with more due to arrive in the coming months, and they are skilled, qualified individuals. Research shows that 2 in every 3 refugees arriving in the UK were either employed, self-employed, or studying before coming here. Many were skilled professionals or high educated graduates. Next slide, please. This week, we carried out a quick poll ourselves among 36 people with refugee backgrounds. We found that nearly a half had a degree, whilst a quarter had a master's degree. We spoke to teachers, medics, journalists, HR managers, vets, IT professionals, social workers, just to name a few. This group highlights the huge variety of broader business skills among our respondents that UK businesses could benefit from. Next slide, please. In this sample group, there were people with marketing, financial design, computer, customer service, project management, and leadership skills as a few examples. This list is much too long to read out now. This is a huge opportunity. These numbers, these people represent a waiting workforce for you, UK businesses. I would now like to pass you to my colleague Qutaiba, who is going to share some of the difficult realities that refugees currently experience in the workplace. Over to you, Qutaiba.
Thank you, Media. Hello, everyone. My name is Qutaiba. I am originally from Syria, and I have been in the UK for 5 years. I work full-time with the Launchpad Collective. Refugees' talent is often overlooked, and we did some research amongst refugees to find out how we help employers benefit from this talent and help refugees have a better experience at work. We wanted to understand the difficulties that refugees face around work. I learned that there are 3 common problems in the work environment. The first area is understanding the laws around work in the UK, like holiday pay, contract, sick pay, tax, part-time work, and self-employment. Not understanding this makes people feel confused and insecure. The second is the language. Even if they studied English before, people want to be familiar with the work, acronyms, and jargon, formal language and slang phrases that are often used. Reading and understanding formal language often used in job description and applications is a particular challenge. And the third area is feeling that employers don't believe that refugees are capable. People feel that companies don't value the experience or qualifications that they have from their home country. In fact, many are highly skilled, qualified, and educated. These are just 3 of the main challenges people mentioned in our research. And now thank you to show today. And now I will hand over to Samari.
Thanks so much, Medya and Qutaiba. And now I'd like to hand you to the first of our 3 guest speakers, Salwa. Thank you, Salwa.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Summerly. My name is Salwa. I am originally from Yemen, and I have been living in Belfast since February 2017. I am fluent in English and Arabic. I have a bachelor's degree in Sociology, Faculty of Arts, University of Sana'a. I work with Anaka Women Collective as a project coordination, general management now. Previously, back home in Yemen, I work in accounting and finance at international firms and organizations like Arthur Andersen, Deloitte, UNDP, and US Agency for International Development. But I also worked as an interpreter and an international observer during Yemeni parliament's presidential and local councils election. In addition, I am a professional photographer, and I am an activist in women and children rights. My work has been exhibited, and my images are still used in articles, events, and campaigns worldwide. Waiting for my asylum decision, I struggled with not being allowed to work, but I used this time fruitfully volunteering and training in civic leadership. Once I received the refugee status, and having the right to live and work in the UK has helped me to feel much more settled. It hasn't been without challenges though. Despite the fact that I have the language and the experience, I struggled to have my qualifications recognized in the UK. I applied for jobs but didn't get any reply. But I continued volunteering with a number of community organizations. Not getting any replies or interviews made me feel that people didn't recognize or value my experience and skills. I appreciate that many people are unsure about taking on a refugee and that they may not understand that we can work legally. I also appreciate that my qualifications might not be familiar. However, It was frustrating knowing that there were so many jobs I could do, but I wasn't given any opportunity to show people what I was capable of. Through my volunteering, I have been able to show people exactly what I am capable of. I have used that period to build trust with people in these organizations. As a result of working with me, I was advised by the organizations to apply for a paid role. Through knowing me, trusting me, and seeing my work firsthand, I was able to interview for this job, which I got then. I feel you sure will be pleasantly surprised if you could do something similar. If you could be a little creative and flexible, you could consider offering trial periods, maybe for 3 months. This would allow you to see if someone is a good fit for your organization. It would allow you to meet people like me and see what we are capable of bringing to your company. If it doesn't work out, you haven't lost much, but I expect in most cases, you will be glad you took the chance. Thank you. Now I'm going to pass to Ahud.
Thank you, Salwa. Hello, everybody. My name is Ahud. I'm from Syria. I have graduated from Damascus University in 2006, the Arabic Literature Department, and then worked for more than 14 years as an Arabic teacher. I consider myself a talented and very active person in my work field. Especially I use my own method to teach young children by using handcraft. I have tried to apply for many jobs since I came to the UK. Unfortunately, like many people, I struggled with the application forms. Myself and my husband have found it very challenging to fill in these forms, and we have needed to ask people to help us, and it has still taken us hours. I would like to offer some suggestions so that you can reach and interview people with refugee backgrounds, as they have so many skills that can help your company. Firstly, let us talk about the language used in the job advertised used are very formal, and lots of jargon is used. This makes it very difficult for us to really understand what the job about. It would really be helpful if you can use simple informal words and make the advert as short as possible. About the application forms, often application forms are incredibly challenging. They can also exclude people like myself. I would like to give you an example of question that I often see, and that is a big problem. The question is, tell us about your work experience in the UK. But I don't have any work experience in the UK, so I can't answer this, and my application will be rejected. If the question said, tell us about your experience, I would have lots to say, and hopefully I will get an interview. And about the connection or with the refugees directly, as well as reaching refugees through simpler communication. You can also reach them by going direct to them. Every town or city would probably have a charity that supports refugees. If you are looking for staff, you could send your sample job adverts direct to these groups. They should be able to share the details with people they know. Thank you for your listening. I'll let you with Arfan now.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Ahud. I'm Irfan and I'm 26 years old and I'm originally from Iran. I studied my bachelor's in social work in my home country and my master's in human resources at Lancaster University in the UK. I had a chance to meet Jane and Summerly at the Launchpad Collective and was introduced to someone from the human resource sector immediately. And now I'm working as an associate recruitment consultant at BPeople. Therefore, I can consider myself fortunate as I didn't have to wait long to be employed. Coming from this background, both social work and human resources, as well as working as a recruitment consultant, have given me a better understanding on detecting some of the barriers which people with refugee backgrounds might face in finding a job. As we all know, refugees are coming from different backgrounds. They have studied and worked in their own countries rather than the UK. So they might have gone through a different educational system or work environment. Knowing this might prevent them being recruited and consequently integrating in the UK. Some of the recruiters might be hesitant to recruit them because they might think their knowledge and understanding of in a specific field is different in their home country rather than in the UK. One of the barriers which I've mostly come across is the registration or membership of a different association and body. As I said, I'm coming from both social work and human resources, so I'll use these two fields as examples to explain the issue in detail. As a qualified social worker, the only way that you're allowed to practice in the UK is that if you're registered with a specialist body called Social Work England. In order to register, you have to submit your qualifications, answer a professional questionnaire related to the field so they can assess the applicant's knowledge, and finally pay around 450 to 500 pounds for the first time, which will then become 90 pounds annual registration fee. What can be challenging here is that most of the people with refugee backgrounds might not be aware of his specialist body and its importance at first. They might not know anything about the steps, requirements, and documents they have to provide, let alone not being able to afford it. And on the other hand, when it comes to human resources, as a human resource professional in the UK, it is desirable to be a member of CIPD, which is a professional body for human resource and people development. Getting that certification, acquiring CIPD requires the applicants to participate in courses and take some exams, as well as providing documents as proof that they have studied in human resources. Moreover, there is an annual membership fee, which varies from 90 to 200 pounds based on the applicant's level of education. Like the previous one, not being aware of the bureaucratic side of the registration, as well as not being able to afford the annual fee might be a challenge for people with refugee background. Of course, there are some ways in which we, as employers and companies, can assist the refugees to overcome those barriers. It's all about how flexible we can be. Firstly, so many refugees arrive in the UK undocumented. So it's not really possible for them to hold their qualification while they are making their journey to the UK. We have to understand these people are leaving everything behind to save their lives. So educational qualifications and certifications are not really a priority for them to carry with them through the whole journey. Some memberships and registrations are compulsory, like Social Work England for social workers that I mentioned earlier. And some others are not mandatory, but desirable, like the CIPD. If a candidate with refugee background already has their own qualification with them, can we explain the bureaucracy and steps of registering for a specialist body? Can we help them to apply and submit the relevant documents for it? And finally, can we assist them in paying the membership fees? For those who don't hold their qualification with them, we can be flexible if only holding the membership of an association isn't mandatory. And in that case, we can consider other options. Can we let the candidates to be assessed during the recruitment process for their knowledge and understanding? And then if high potential, can we offer them an entry level or an internship role, so they have the chance to improve their knowledge and gain more experience while preparing themselves to register for relevant bodies? These are the solutions that came to my mind for a problem like this, but I would be happy to answer any questions that might come up later. Thank you so much, and I'm gonna hand over to Jessica, with whom I'm working at BePeople.
Thanks, Irfan. Hi, everyone. I'm Jess, and I run a company called BePeople Group. We are a recruitment business specializing in inclusive leadership search, and we are also partners with the Launchpad Collective. And earlier this year, via their introduction, we hired our first ever refugee employee. You just heard him speak before me. Hey, Irfan. I had been introduced to Irfan to see if I could help initially. He was an individual with a lot of potential. He was looking for work in human resources, so maybe we would have some connections for him, or have some HR leaders that we could perhaps introduce him to. But when I met with Irfan, I was just super impressed. He was a very convincing person. He clearly had a lot of drive and passion for people. His English skills were very good. He was articulate, smart. We just had a very, very good exchange together. So much so that I actually thought that was a good possibility. He could make a really great recruiter, and I decided that I wanted to offer him a job myself. So he met with the team and the stars aligned. We offered him a role and he gladly accepted it. So if we fast forward to now, since joining the business, Irfan's doing really, really well. He's currently on the cusp of making his first placement, where he's personally led the candidate search and process, which is just brilliant. And we are already looking at areas of BePeople where he could eventually lead and build up. And Irfan actually came to me and suggested that maybe he could specialize in social services roles, because he has experience there, which was a good idea, but sits very far away from what we do as a business and the level of openings that we manage. So actually, we had some discussion and together decided that a good remit would be to specialize in public sector and non-profit companies, which still sits within his area of interest and passion, but then also aligns really well with what we do too. And actually, it's probably not something we would have considered building right now if it wasn't for that conversation and idea from Irfan. So I think that's really exciting and has a lot of potential. From my side, I would say that having a refugee employee on board has only further broadened my own understanding of another type of background and how to be a better manager as well. It gives our team another outlook, another life view to consider. And I think that makes us a better team, one who can learn from each other, and a more enlightened company as well, the more views we have at the table. I know some people might wonder, could there be a lot of complexity or challenges in hiring refugee individuals? And to this, I would say, honestly, we haven't come across any hurdles yet. And maybe the couple of occasions where there's been something to think about, there's been a really simple solution, mostly just by open communication or through diversity of thought or diversity of approach. A couple of fast examples would be, we have a trip coming up to Barcelona as a business for a company reward. And Irfan indicated that he wouldn't be able to join us because he needs a travel visa, which, by the way, is fairly simple to obtain with enough notice. But just on this occasion, his documents would be at the French embassy, so he wouldn't be able to apply in time. And he was sort of saying, no problem, just go without me, I'll make the next one. But no, we discussed that there are countries where he can visit where a refugee travel visa isn't required. And so we're now just moving our holiday to Croatia or Portugal, which is even better, as I haven't been to either. And we all still get to go together. So it was a very simple fix. The only other example I can think of is maybe a thought around labeling. So if I'm to look at my own background, I talk about this a lot to my clients where it feels relevant. So me being from very working class roots and experiences that I've had that kind of shape who I am and make me good at my job. And I talk a lot about equal opportunities. But I think it's important to know that not everyone will want to share certain things about themselves. And it was made quite clear early on from Irfan that he did not want to bring his refugee status into the work he's doing or have this label, which we completely respect. And frankly, those factors are something entirely within his control at Be People. It's totally up to him. If that comes to be something that changes in the future, then that will be Irfan's decision. And I think being careful and being sure not to speak for other people is really important. And that's not even isolated to if you're hiring refugee individuals or hiring any person that comes from an underrepresented group or somebody that has lived experiences that you don't share. I think it's really important to consider, and the simple solution to that has been just pure, easy dialogue. And just finally, I wanted to mention that although we haven't had to lean hard on the Launchpad Collective, because things have gone so well and it's been a very positive experience for us, it hasn't actually been much different or any different to hiring a non-refugee employee. But it has been great to know that the team at the Launchpad Collective are there if needed. You know, I personally want to make sure I'm being the best leader I can, that we're learning, that our business is evolving, that we're a great employer, and that we're an inclusive employer. So it's reassuring to know that if there's anything I'm unsure about, or we are in uncharted waters, or I just need to chat, that the team there are there when needed, and they've made that clear. So, which is great, and they've been wonderful. And so yeah, we're very happy, and so far so great. I'm very glad we found Irfan, and I think the future looks bright. So I just wanted to say thanks for having me today. I'm very glad to be able to speak to our positive experience working with the Launchpad Collective, and I only hope that there will be more success stories to come. So thanks. I'm passing you over now to Stephen, I think.
Hi, thank you very much, Jess. My name is Stephen Spears. I run a franchise for Riverford Organic Farmers in Sussex. We deliver organic veg boxes to customers' homes. Somebody was a customer of mine, somebody from the Launchpad Collective, that is, who I would often talk to on the doorstep when I delivered to her. This is how I found out about all the amazing work she was doing with refugees. During one of our many chats, I mentioned I needed somebody to help with admin at Riverford, and somebody told me she knew exactly the person who might well be able to help. She helped arrange an informal interview in a coffee shop in Lewes. Mo was a complete joy. He was engaged, funny, and you could see he was a highly motivated person. His spoken English was good, and his IT knowledge was probably better than mine, which, combined with his positive attitude, meant I was very happy to offer him the job. His role involved answering emails, changing orders, speaking to customers, and arranging veg swaps for customers who wanted different veg in their boxes. He needed some help on grammar and spelling for emails, but that was all. A very small price to pay for his excellent work. Somebody was always available to help, and she checked in with me from time to time to check it was all going okay, which, to be honest, it was, and we never came across any issues surrounding the fact that Mo was a refugee. Mo learned very quickly and was very capable. Beyond all the work he did for me, the most rewarding part was hearing about his journey, his life, and his challenges. We would often get lunch and walk down to the seaside for a chat. It is a real eye-opener when you hear firsthand about having to flee your home country when ISIS come knocking and you are forced to head overseas by any means possible. This is not a journey that is ever undertaken lightly. After about a year, Mo left for a more sociable role in catering. I think we both gained greatly from the experience. I, with much more knowledge of a subject I didn't know a great deal about, and Mo, I believe, gained experience that has helped him move on with his career in other parts of the UK. I would definitely hire another refugee in the future, and to be honest, do hope to do so. I would now like to pass over to Jane from the Launchpad Collective to see how she can make it easier for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much to everybody who's spoken so far. I'd like to add my voice here as someone with positive experiences working with refugees. I'm Jane, one of the co-founders of the Launchpad Collective. Our team is primarily made up of people with refugee background, as well as Kutaiba and Media, both from Syria. We have team members from Yemen and Libya, plus our translation team from the Ukraine, Iran, and Afghanistan. We've only had positive experiences with people really eager to rebuild their life, learn whatever they can, and improve themselves. Obviously, they're not a homogenous group, but our team are hardworking, keen to learn, and resilient, and it's been a real privilege to learn from them. There's been a great deal of research into the business benefits of employing this talented pool of individuals. I could share so much with you, but instead I'm going to focus and highlight on 5 areas. Refugees are educated. In fact, a third go on into higher education. Refugees are often multilingual. So if you're already working internationally or wanting to expand into global markets, these language skills are a real asset. Employing refugees could be your way into new markets. Refugees tend to stay with their employers longer than other employees. These enormous retention rates may be due to the fact that after periods of enormous upheaval, people are looking to put down roots. And so a job with long-term prospects becomes very appealing. A diverse workforce is good for business. Research has shown that 3/4 of millennials favor pro-refugee brands, and almost a half are more likely to buy from a company that either employs refugees or supports refugees in other ways. Lastly, refugees typically exhibit a hardworking, focused, can-do attitude, ideal in any employee. The Herculean task of overcoming enormous hurdles to reach our shores requires resilience, endurance, tenacity, and determination. And the resourcefulness and adaptability required to leave your home and start a new life elsewhere are traits that any company would benefit from. These and many more skills and traits offer huge opportunity for businesses like you to help you close your skills gap and increase the impact of your organization. So what's next? Well, firstly, we're here for you. We know that the idea of connecting with this untapped workforce may feel daunting. We've helped businesses like you harness the skills and experiences of refugees by navigating both the regulations and cultural sensitivities. We can demystify the process and make it feel possible. We can help simplify regulations and red tape that might currently feel complex and confusing. We can prepare your current teams and your working environments so that they are places of safety for all your staff, whatever their backgrounds. And we can help you get past those feelings of risk and see the value that diversity can bring for your own business success. We want to help you be the very best you can be. And we want to help refugees be the very best they can be. We're here for you both. Today, we're launching the Launchpad Collective toolkit that helps employers to feel that all this is possible. It goes through questions and concerns you might have, like, do refugees have a legal right to work? How do we reach them? And so on. And it gives you practical top tips to follow so that you can help tap into this skilled and diverse workforce. You're here today because you already know you want to improve your business and you see an opportunity to help refugees. You've already made the first important step to change your business for the better. If you want to learn more, then all we're asking is that you put our toolkit to the test. Let us know what you think. Tell us if it meets your needs, Or is there more we need to add to make it even more valuable for you? If you would like to join our pilot program or get in touch about anything at all, please do. Thank you so much for your time today. We look forward to working with you. I'm going to pass you back to Lauren now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane, and thank you so much to all of our amazing speakers. I think just hearing so many different viewpoints on this topic really brings it to life, and it's just so valuable. So I've had quite a few questions come through, which has been great. And just before we do our final part, I'm just going to spend around 10 minutes answering some of those. So we've had a couple of questions around kind of one area that we knew would get a lot of interest, just around the legalities of actually hiring refugees, and do refugees automatically have the right to work? And if they don't, what can employers do to enable this? So I believe Irfan is going to jump on and just answer a couple of those questions for us on the legalities of hiring refugees.
Thank you, Lauren. So yes, I think we have to bear in mind that there are two terms that being used for people who are seeking asylum and refugees. We have asylum seekers, and on the other hand, refugees. Asylum seekers are people who arrive in the UK and lodge an application to claim asylum, and they have to wait for a certain time so the application can be considered. While they are waiting for application to get a result, they don't have the right to work, they don't have the right to study, they don't have the right to claim benefits. Of course, after a year, they can request a kind of right to work from the Home Office, but they can only work, after that, they can only work in the jobs, in the sectors that is mentioned in the shortage occupation list. But when they get the refugee status, when their application has been considered and they are granted the refugee status, they have like British citizens, they have the right to work, study, and claim benefits. So when we are talking about refugee employment, we are talking about the people who already got their status and they are allowed to work.
Perfect, thank you, Irfan. We also had another one just around how refugees are able to prove their skills and qualifications in the UK and how they can be translated. And somebody asked a really great question just around the idea of kind of a digital global skills database, and if one exists and if there is scope for that, where refugees are able to kind of find support improving their qualifications. I'm not sure if Summerlee, if maybe you want to comment on if you know if that exists and what you think of that idea.
Yeah, I think that's a really great idea. And as far as I know, there isn't a database that exists at the moment. The way that people sort of prove their certifications and their qualifications is via an organisation which I think has been shared in the chat, which is UK ENIC, I think it's called, previously NARIC. But there isn't a database at the moment, but that is a very, very good idea. So thank you for raising that.
Thanks, Emily. We also had a couple of questions just around kind of the British government's appetite, I guess, and the attitudes often when it comes to refugees and asylum seekers, and the attitude that is often taken, as we've seen recent news, around kind of prevention and often punishment rather than kind of being welcoming and allowing people to upskill and develop. I wonder if you have any thoughts on that, Irfan, if you wouldn't mind, it just popped up for me.
Yes, thank you. So the approach that the government has chosen is not only going to work, but also it's actually really expensive. So if we see it as see asylum seekers and refugees as people who want to integrate to the society, to the community, and at some point kind of become part of the society, we have to let them they have to feel that they are part of the community, and by doing that you can give them the right to study and to work, so they can communicate with people around them, they can feel that they are at home, they are safe, they are accepted, they are acknowledged. But when you kind of isolate them, when you separate them from other parts of society, first of all, what you're doing is that you're alienating them. So people who are living in this country might have kind of negative perception or idea about refugees and where they come from, or some disinformation or misinformation that have been spread might affect their performance, function, and productivity in the society. So how refugees are gonna really work and live in this country is based on how they are perceived, how they are welcomed. And if they feel that they are at home, they would definitely integrate positively.
Perfect, thank you, Afa. We've had one, I guess, from the employer perspective, so employers that have actually taken the steps to accommodate and be inclusive of refugees. I wonder if Stephen and or Jessica, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us maybe just the one, I guess, adjustment that you've made to your business that has worked best to integrate refugees or those with refugee backgrounds. I think we've got Stephen.
Oh, yeah, I would just say that it's just being more open in yourself to the possibility of employing people outside of where you would normally get people from. So it's just being open is what I would say. It's just not, and also just not doing recruiting exactly the same way you always recruit, because you might miss out on the amazing opportunity all of these refugees can give you, because they may not see, they may not be on Indeed or the other websites you might use to get people. So it's just being a bit more open, going through to people like the Launchpad Collective. There, I think other people have mentioned groups. There are charities who work with Ukrainians or other refugees, so you can approach them directly, and you'll find a wealth of very skilled people out there.
Thank you, Stephen. Do you have anything to add to that one, Jessica, just from the employer perspective on the ground? I don't think so. Maybe if we can flip that, I guess, to Jane and Summerlee, kind of the bridge in between, I guess, employers and refugees themselves. What would you say, I guess? I know there are tons of the toolkit is going to delve into all of those in so much detail, but is there kind of one or two pieces of key advice that you would give to employers who are maybe just starting this journey or interested in starting the journey of making their workplace a safe space and accommodating refugees?
I would say probably what you can guess I might say, get in touch with us and have a conversation, because it isn't just really one thing. It's just do what we've just done. We would like you to hear from people with lived experience, because we're just the facilitators. We're listening all the time and we're learning. And so by getting in touch with us, we can pass on all the wisdom. Because as you've just heard from Salwa, Uhud and Kutaiba, they've come up with some solutions for ways to make your recruitment more inclusive. And Stephen's, hit the nail on the head. It's about changing this, doing things slightly differently. And rather than advertising where you always have advertised, thinking, well, where might people be? Where are they likely to be looking? So it's about being creative and being open. But get in touch with us and let's have a longer conversation about this. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. Just sticking with you, or perhaps Summerlee, we had a really good question just on around, I guess, the public perception, and that we do know that there are some great companies doing great work, like we've seen today, in hiring refugees. Do you think if more companies were quite outspoken and made it quite clear that they're looking to accommodate refugees, that would kind of help public perceptions if people saw the amazing value that refugees could have in business, examples of that, that would then help to shift perceptions, I guess, of the amazing talent that refugees can bring?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think at the moment, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're seeing this sort of groundswell of support for refugees, in particular since the crisis in Ukraine. And a lot of that support is in sort of practical ways. And it would be great now for businesses sort of to step up and show their support, and speak about their experiences in the way that you've created a space today for businesses to talk about their experiences hiring refugees, their positive experience, as you say, to start changing that narrative. I think it's really important. Yeah.
Thanks, Amelie. We've had a really great question, perhaps maybe from somebody with lived experience, just around the idea of kind of ESOL courses, and, you know, do you think they're kind of fit for purpose? And, you know, are they actually preparing people who don't have English as a first language to actually join the labour market and to start work? Is there more that could be done to support people with gaining just basic English level skills that will then help them find employment where they can progress in? I'm not sure if anybody wants to pick up on that one.
I think that, oh, sorry, was it somebody from our
just anybody, somebody, if you want to start, and if anybody wants to think about an answer while you're speaking, that would be great.
I think there is a real push for refugees to improve their English, and there's lots of colleges, you know, there's lots of places available and lots of colleges where people can work on their English. I think what Jane and I found sort of working in this sector is that they'll be doing both, you know, working on their English and looking at improving their CV, gaining interview practice, getting work experience, you know, and those two things sort of need to sit together. So I hope that answers your question. So sort of getting English courses in place and looking at the future and how to make their CV more robust and start connecting with employment opportunities too.
I'm not sure if anybody else wants to jump in on that one. Just perhaps, is there any more employers or the education system could do to equip people with just a basic level of English, I guess, you know, not a year-long course or whatever it might be, to help them gain the entry level of English thing, or develop on the sometimes amazing English skills they already have to be able to go in and evidence them and gain employment? No, that's fine. I think just we're coming to the end of this session, I think what would be really good is if we could perhaps just share the poll again, just to hopefully see if those confidence levels have gone up. As we said, you know, as I should have said, this really kind of just was an intro into the work that working with great organisations like the Launchpad Collective can have in kind of raising the confidence of UK employers. This was almost a bit of a tester and a bit of a teaser to see what the appetite is, and we will be sending out some comms following this, encouraging you and asking you if you would like to get involved with testing that business toolkit and feeding in what are some of the challenges that you have. We had a question just on the Launchpad Collective's website, so we'll pop that into the chat just now before we finish up. Still got some poll responses coming in, which is great, and they're looking very good. Amazing. So as you guys can hopefully see on the screen, so we no longer have anybody that's not at all confident, which is amazing. We have 38% who are somewhat confident and 62% which are very confident, which is amazing. So I think on that, unless anybody has any final questions they want to just pop into the chat, somebody's asking just for email addresses, and if they're able to continue contact, which there certainly will be, we'll be sending out a follow-up survey within 24 hours from now with all the contact details if you want to get in touch with Jane or somebody directly, if you also want to be part of that test group for the business toolkits.
Could I just add, I just had a message from Jess at Be People. She sends her apologies. She crashed and she was unable to answer. So sorry about that, everybody.
Thank you for putting that in, Jess. And there's a great answer in the chat if anybody wants to have a quick skim of that before we end the meeting. But I'm sure there are a couple of questions that were a little bit meatier and a little bit more specific. So what we'll do is we'll go through the chat and just make sure if we've missed out on any questions or in the Q&A section, when we send around that follow-up email, we'll make sure we include the answers to that and some of those commonly asked questions, I think, just around legalities and any guidance that we can produce. But I think it would be good if we call time now and give people 3 or 4 minutes back of their morning before it ends. So yeah, lastly from me, just thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope everybody has found it useful, and there will be further ways to engage on this work. So with that, enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and thank you to all of our amazing speakers.